The carton of strawberry milk exploded against the locker metal right next to my ear. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I just closed my eyes and let the sticky, pink liquid drip down the side of my face and onto the shoulder of my blazer. The hallway, which had been buzzing with the noise of 100 wealthy students, went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Or in this case, you could hear the slow rhythmic tapping of expensive leather loafers approaching me on the marble floor. I slowly wiped a drop of milk from my cheek and opened my eyes. Tae-kyung was standing there. He looked perfect, annoying and bored. His tie was slightly loose, his hair was perfectly styled to look messy, and his eyes were cold enough to freeze the Han River. He held his hand out, and one of his lackeys immediately placed a wet wipe in his palm. He didn't even look at the lackey. He just looked at me. "You're late," Tae-kyung said, his voice low and smooth, like he wasn't talking to a human being but to a malfunctioning vending machine. "I asked for the milk 5 minutes ago. Warm milk is trash. And so is a servant who can't tell time." He dropped the wet wipe on the floor. He didn't offer it to me. He dropped it on my shoes. "Clean it up, Imani. And get me another one. Cold this time." I looked at the wipe on my shoe. Then I looked up at him. The entire school was watching. Phones were out recording. This was my life at Hanlim Royal High. I wasn't a student here. I was the entertainment. I was the charity case with the dark skin and the hair that defied gravity, the girl who got in on a scholarship and was immediately assigned the role of Tae-kyung's personal stress ball. Before I tell you what I did next, and trust me, you are going to want to hear this, hit that like button and subscribe right now. If you've ever had to deal with a bully who thought they owned the world, tell me in the comments. Because I was about to learn that even kings have weak spots, and sometimes the only way to survive is to aim for the throat. I didn't pick up the wipe. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. But I kept my face completely blank. My mother always told me, "Imani, never let them see you bleed." I took a deep breath, smelling the sickly sweet scent of artificial strawberry syrup that was soaking into my uniform. "No," I said. The silence in the hallway somehow got deeper. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Tae-kyung blinked. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but I saw it. He wasn't used to hearing that word. "What did you say?" he asked, tilting his head. He took a step closer, invading my personal space. He smelled like expensive cologne and arrogance. "I said no," I repeated, keeping my voice steady even though my hands were shaking at my sides. "I'm here to study, Tae-kyung. Not to run errands for a spoiled brat who doesn't know how to use a vending machine. If you want milk, go get it yourself. You have legs." The crowd gasped. Someone actually whispered, "Is she crazy?" Tae-kyung stared at me for a long, agonizing second. Then a slow, cruel smirk spread across his face. It wasn't a smile. It was a warning. "You have legs," he repeated, mocking my accent. He laughed, but his eyes were dead serious. "You think you're brave, don't you? You think because you're smart, because the teachers like you, that you're safe? Imani, look around." He gestured to the crowd of students. They were all staring at me with a mix of pity and excitement. They were waiting for the execution. "Nobody here cares about you," Tae-kyung whispered, leaning down so his lips were right by my ear. "You are a guest in my kingdom. And guests who are rude, they get evicted." He straightened up and snapped his fingers. "Let's go." He walked away, his entourage trailing behind him like ducklings. He didn't look back. But as he turned the corner, he kicked my book bag, sending my notebooks sliding across the polished floor. I stood there for a moment, the sticky milk drying on my skin. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run back to the dorms, pack my bags, and fly back to Lagos. But I didn't. I crouched down, picked up my biology notebook, and wiped the dust off the cover. "I am not going anywhere," I thought fiercely. "You want a war, Tae-kyung? Fine." The next 3 days were hell. It wasn't physical violence. Tae-kyung was too smart for that. He knew that if he hit me, he'd get in trouble. So he played mind games. On Tuesday, I walked into my first class to find my desk missing. The teacher just shrugged and told me to sit on the floor in the back. I sat on the floor, opened my book, and took notes while the other students giggled. I made sure to answer every single question the teacher asked loud and clear from the floor. I got every answer right. Tae-kyung sat in the front row, his back stiff. He didn't turn around, but I saw his grip tighten on his pen until his knuckles turned white. On Wednesday, I went to the cafeteria. I was starving. I lined up, got my tray of rice and spicy pork and turned to find a table. As soon as I took a step, a foot shot out. I didn't trip, luckily. I caught myself. It was Minji, the self-proclaimed queen bee of the school and Tae-kyung's biggest fan. Oops, she said, popping her gum. Didn't see you there. You kind of blend into the shadows. The girls around her laughed. It was a stupid racist joke, the kind I'd heard 1,000 times. I just stared at her. Careful, Minji, I said coolly. Plastic melts if it gets too close to the heat. Her smile vanished. I walked past her and sat at an empty table. But within seconds, everyone at the surrounding tables stood up and moved away, leaving me on an island of isolation. Tae-kyung was watching from the balcony above, looking down like an emperor at the Colosseum. He raised his eyebrows at me, challenging me to break. I ate every bite of my food. I chewed slowly. I didn't look up at him once. But by Thursday afternoon I was exhausted. The constant staring, the whispers, the sabotage, it was wearing me down. I needed a place to breathe. I needed somewhere quiet where I didn't have to have my guard up. I had heard rumors about the old arts wing. It was scheduled for renovation, so it was mostly abandoned. Students said it was haunted, but I didn't care about ghosts. I cared about silence. I slipped away during the lunch break, dodging the hall monitors, and ducked under the yellow caution tape blocking the hallway to the west wing. The air here was cooler, smelling of dust and old wood. It was silent. Finally, I walked down the long corridor, checking the doors. Locked, locked, locked. Then, at the very end of the hall, I saw a door with the number 404 on it. The paint was peeling, and the brass number was tarnished. Error 404. Page not found, I thought with a small smile. Fitting. I tried the handle. It turned. I slipped inside and quickly shut the door behind me, leaning my forehead against the cool wood. I let out a long, shaky breath. Okay, Imani, I whispered to myself. Just 20 minutes. Just 20 minutes of peace. Then I heard it. A sound. It wasn't a ghost. It was music. It was a piano, but it wasn't being played like a classical piece. It was raw, angry, and incredibly sad. The chords were crashing against each other, messy and beautiful. It sounded like someone was crying through the keys. I frowned. I thought this wing was empty. I crept forward. The room was huge, an old music lecture hall with dusty velvet curtains. On the stage, in the center of a spotlight that filtered in through a high window, sat a grand piano. And hunched over the keys was Tae-kyung. I froze. My breath hitched in my throat. This wasn't the Tae-kyung who ruled the hallways. His blazer was thrown on the floor. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. His perfect hair was a mess, like he had been running his hands through it repeatedly, and he wasn't looking at the keys. His head was bowed low, his forehead almost touching the wood of the piano. He slammed his hands down on a final, dissonant chord, and the sound echoed through the empty room. Then he did something that shocked me more than anything he had done all week. He sobbed. It was a harsh, ragged sound. His shoulders shook violently. I can't do it, he choked out, talking to himself. I can't be him. I hate it. I hate all of it. He slammed his fist against the keys again, a discordant crash. Dad, please. Just let me stop. I stood there paralyzed. This was the monster? This was the boy who poured milk on people and made students sit on the floor? He looked like a child. He looked broken. I should have left. I should have quietly backed out of the door and never spoken of it. But my foot shifted, and the floorboard beneath me let out a loud, agonizing creak. The music stopped instantly. Tae-kyung's head snapped up. He spun around on the bench, his eyes wide and red-rimmed. When he saw me standing in the shadows, the blood drained from his face. For a split second I saw pure, unadulterated panic in his eyes. You, he whispered. Then the mask slammed back into place. He stood up, knocking the piano bench over with a loud clatter. He wiped his face aggressively with his sleeve, trying to erase the tears, but it was too late. I had seen them. What are you doing here? he roared. His voice cracked, ruining the intimidation factor. Get out. Who told you to come here? I didn't move. My heart was pounding, but my brain was working fast. I realized something in that moment. The fear in his eyes wasn't because I was trespassing. It was because I had seen him weak. Tae-kyung's power came from being untouchable, from being perfect. If the school found out that the Ice Prince came to an abandoned room to cry about his daddy issues, his reputation would be shattered. I took a step forward out of the shadows and into the light. Nobody told me, I said calmly. I just wanted some quiet. Tae-kyung marched down the steps of the stage, stopping just a few feet from me. He was breathing hard. You saw nothing, he hissed. Do you hear me? You saw nothing. If you say a word to anyone. Or what? I interrupted him. He blinked, taken aback. Or what, Tae-kyung? I crossed my arms. You'll spill more milk on me? You'll take away my chair? You've already done your worst. What else have you got? He glared at me, his hands balling into fists. I can have you expelled. One phone call to the board. And tell them what? I countered. That the scholarship student found you crying in the dark? I wonder what your father would say about that. From what I just heard, he doesn't seem like the type who likes tears. It was a gamble. A massive, dangerous gamble. Tae-kyung went still. I had hit the bullseye. The color left his face completely. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. He wasn't looking at a victim anymore. He was looking at a threat. You wouldn't dare, he whispered. Try me, I said. My voice was stronger now. I'm tired, Tae-kyung. I'm tired of the games. I'm tired of the bullying. So here is the deal. The deal. He scoffed, but his eyes were darting around nervously. You don't make deals with me. I do now, I said. I won't tell anyone about this. About the crying. About the piano. About how much you hate your life. He flinched. In exchange, I continued, stepping closer until I was looking up into his face. The bullying stops. Today. Right now. You don't touch me. You don't speak to me. You let me study in peace. And you tell your little minions to back off. Tae-kyung stared at me. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. He was weighing his options. He could destroy me, but at the cost of his own secret. Finally, he let out a short, bitter laugh. He ran a hand through his hair. Fine, he spat out. You want peace? You got it. But don't think this makes us friends. You're still nothing. I don't want to be your friend, Tae-kyung, I said coldly. I just want to survive you. I turned around and walked toward the door. I reached for the handle. Wait, he called out. I stopped, hand on the brass knob. I looked back over my shoulder. He was standing by the stage, looking small in the big room. You can't come back here, he said. This is my place. It's a school, I said. And frankly, the acoustics are too good to waste on just you. I opened the door and walked out. I thought I had one. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I had secured my safety and could just go back to being invisible. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Because the next morning when I got to school, my locker wasn't covered in trash. It was clean. But standing right next to it was Tae-kyung. He wasn't glaring. He was leaning against the metal, looking relaxed. When he saw me, he didn't move away. Good morning, he said. I stopped dead in my tracks. Students were whispering. Why is Tae-kyung talking to the scholarship girl? Why isn't he tormenting her? What are you doing? I hissed, keeping my voice low. The deal was you leave me alone. I am leaving you alone, he said innocently. I'm not doing anything to you. But I realized something last night, Imani. He pushed off the locker and took a step toward me. If I just ignore you, people might get suspicious. They might wonder why I suddenly stopped having fun. He smirked. And we can't have people asking questions, can we? That puts my secret at risk. So what do you want? I asked, gripping my bag strap. Insurance, he said. I need to keep an eye on you. Make sure you keep your mouth shut. He pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket and slapped it onto my locker door. It was a schedule. From now on, he said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear. You aren't my target. You're my assistant. Everywhere I go, you go. You carry my books. You sit next to me. You make sure my schedule runs perfectly. I am not your maid. I shouted. No. He leaned in, his eyes gleaming with a new dangerous light. You're my partner. Welcome to the inner circle, Imani. Try to keep up. He actually winked and walked away. I stood there staring at the paper. I had stopped the bullying, but I had accidentally walked into a trap. Now I was going to be stuck to his side 24 hours a day. And the worst part? As I watched him walk away, I realized that Minji, the queen bee, was watching from down the hall. And the look on her face wasn't amusement anymore. It was pure, unadulterated hatred. I hadn't just made an enemy of Tae-kyung. I had painted a target on my back for the entire school. Being Tae-kyung's assistant was exactly as annoying as I expected, but not for the reasons I thought. I expected him to be a tyrant. I expected him to make me scrub floors or fetch coffee from 3 towns over. But mostly he just wanted me there. It was the strangest thing. If he was studying in the library, I had to be at the table across from him. If he was eating lunch, I had to sit next to him. He didn't talk to me much. He just needed a shield. As long as I was there, looking busy and serious with my notebooks, the other students, the ones who wanted his money, his influence, or his attention, stayed away. I was his human do not disturb sign. And because I was always there, I started noticing things. I noticed that he didn't eat much. I noticed that his phone buzzed constantly with messages from father that he never opened. I noticed that when he thought nobody was looking, he rubbed his temples like he had a permanent migraine. One rainy Tuesday, we were in the library. It was late. The rain was lashing against the windows, and the heating was cranked up high. I was working on a history essay, and Tae-kyung was supposedly studying economics, but he hadn't turned a page in 20 minutes. I glanced over the top of my laptop. He was asleep. His head was resting on his folded arms. His face, usually twisted into that arrogant smirk, was soft. He looked younger. His eyelashes were long, resting against his pale cheeks. Without the armor of his attitude, he was just a tired boy. I reached out, hesitating, and gently moved his expensive fountain pen before it rolled off the table. As I pulled my hand back, his fingers twitched and wrapped around my wrist. I froze. He didn't wake up. He just held on, his grip loose but grounding, like he was afraid he was going to float away. My heart did a weird flip in my chest. Don't do that, I told myself sternly. He's the enemy. He's the guy who spilled milk on you. But as I sat there, listening to the rain and the steady rhythm of his breathing, I didn't pull my hand away. Of course, the peace couldn't last. The school's Founders Gala was coming up, the biggest event of the year. It was a black-tie dinner where the students pretended to be adults, and the parents networked for business deals. For someone like Minji, this was the Oscars. For someone like me, it was a night to hide in the dorms. But Tae-kyung had other plans. You're going, he said 2 days before the gala, dropping a heavy shopping bag on my desk. I don't have a dress, I said, not looking up from my book. That's why I bought you one, he replied casually. Wear it. I need you to manage my schedule that night. My father is coming, and I need a buffer. I peeked inside the bag. It was silk. It was emerald green. It was beautiful. And it made me want to throw up from anxiety. Tae-kyung, I can't. People already hate me. If I show up in this standing next to you, let them hate, he said, leaning down, his voice dropping to that low register that always made my skin prickle. You look better in green than any of them. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me with a burning face and a racing heart. That was the breaking point for Minji. The night of the gala, the girls' dormitory was chaos. Curling irons, hairspray, perfume clouds thick enough to choke a horse. I was in the communal bathroom trying to style my hair. I had decided to wear it out, a big glorious afro puff that framed my face. I was nervous, but when I put on the green dress, I felt powerful. I was applying my lip gloss when the door swung open. Minji walked in, flanked by her 2 best friends. They were already dressed, looking like K-pop idols in their sequins and satin. Well, Minji sneered, looking me up and down. Look at Cinderella. Did Tae-kyung buy you that? It must be nice to be a charity case. Leave me alone, Minji, I said, capping my gloss. I'm not in the mood. You think you're special because he drags you around? She stepped closer, her eyes venomous. He's just using you to annoy his dad. You're a prop, Imani. A joke. Better a prop than a plastic doll. I shot back, grabbing my clutch. I tried to push past her, but her friends blocked the exit. Minji laughed, a cold, sharp sound. You know, she said, reaching into her purse. That hair takes up so much space. It's really distracting. Maybe we should help you tame it. She pulled out a bottle. It wasn't hairspray. It was a bottle of Superhold craft glue. My blood ran cold. Don't you dare. Oops, she said, feigning clumsiness. She lunged. I tried to dodge, but her friends grabbed my arms. I screamed, thrashing, but they were strong. Minji uncapped the glue and squeezed a massive glob right onto the top of my head. The cold, sticky goo seeped instantly into my curls. There, she smirked, tossing the empty bottle into the sink. Now you have a valid reason to miss the party. You're welcome. They laughed and ran out, leaving me alone in the bathroom. I stood in front of the mirror, trembling. The white glue was already starting to harden, matting my hair down, ruining the style I had spent an hour perfecting. Tears pricked my eyes, hot, angry tears. It wasn't just about the hair. It was the violation. It was the message that no matter how hard I tried, they would always see me as something to be fixed or ruined. I grabbed a towel and tried to wipe it off, but it just made it worse. I looked like a disaster. Imani. The voice came from the hallway. It was Tae-kyung. Go away. I yelled, my voice cracking. Don't come in here. But of course he didn't listen. The door pushed open. Tae-kyung was wearing a tuxedo. He looked breathtaking. And then he saw me. He froze. His eyes went from my face to the white mess in my hair, and then to the empty glue bottle in the sink. The transformation in his face was terrifying. The boredom was gone. The annoyance was gone. In its place was a dark, dangerous rage that made the air in the room feel heavy. Who? He asked. One word. Quiet. Deadly. It doesn't matter. I sniffed, wiping my eyes furiously. Just go to your party, Tae-kyung. I'm not going. He crossed the room in 2 strides. He didn't look at the mess with disgust. He reached out and touched my cheek, forcing me to look at him. His hand was warm. Who did this? He repeated. Minji, I whispered. He didn't say anything. He turned around, grabbed a stack of paper towels, and wet them with warm water. Sit down, he ordered gently. Tae-kyung, it's glue. It won't come out. I have to cut it, I sobbed. You are not cutting your hair, he said firmly. I like your hair. It's like a crown. And we are going to fix it. For the next 20 minutes, the king of the school, the boy who had never done a chore in his life, stood over the sink with me. He used warm water and soap, patiently working the glue out of my strands inch by inch. He ruined his tuxedo cuffs. He got water on his expensive shoes. He didn't care. He was focused, his brow furrowed in concentration, his touch incredibly gentle. I'm sorry, he murmured as he worked. Why are you sorry? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You didn't do it. I let it happen, he said, his jaw tightening. I made you a target because I was too selfish to handle my own problems. I dragged you into my mess. He finally got the last clump out. My hair was wet and shrunken, but it was clean. He handed me a dry towel. There, he said. Perfect. I looked at him in the mirror. I can't go down there like this. My hair is wet. I look crazy. Tae-kyung spun my chair around so I was facing him. He placed his hands on the armrests, boxing me in. You look beautiful, he said, intense. And you are going down there. Because if you hide, Minji wins. And I am done letting people like her win. He held out his hand. Walk with me, Imani. I took his hand. Walking into that ballroom was the hardest thing I've ever done. The music stopped. The chatter died down. Everyone turned to look. They saw Minji in the corner looking smug. Then they saw me. My hair was damp and wild. I wasn't wearing the perfect makeup anymore. But I was holding Tae-kyung's hand, and he was walking with his head high, daring anyone to say a word. He led me straight to the center of the room. Minji stepped forward, smiling fake sweetness. Oh my God, Imani, what happened to you? Did you get caught in the rain? Tae-kyung stopped. He let go of my hand and stepped in front of me. The entire room held its breath. Minji, Tae-kyung said, his voice carrying clearly over the silent crowd. If you ever come near her again, if you ever touch her, or look at her wrong, you won't just be expelled. I will make sure you never step foot in a decent university in this country. Do you understand? Minji's mouth fell open. Her face went pale. Tae-kyung, I was just joking. I'm not laughing, he said, cold as ice. He turned his back on her, dismissing her completely. He turned to me, and his expression softened instantly. He bowed, offering his hand like a prince in a fairy tale. They're playing our song, he lied. The band wasn't playing anything. But the conductor, sensing the mood, hurriedly tapped his baton and started a slow waltz. I took his hand and he pulled me close. His other hand settled on my waist, firm and possessive. We began to move. I stumbled a little, my legs shaking, but he held me up. I don't know how to waltz, I whispered against his chest. Just follow me, he murmured into my hair. I've got you. I've always got you. We spun around the floor, a blur of emerald green and black tuxedo. For the first time since I arrived in Korea, I didn't feel like an outsider. I didn't feel like the foreign girl. I felt like the only girl in the world. Tae-kyung, I said, pulling back slightly to look at him. Why did you do that? He looked down at me, his dark eyes searching mine. Because I hated seeing you cry, he admitted. And because I think I hate everyone in this room except for you. That's a very low bar, I smiled. Okay, fine, he huffed, a hint of pink dusting his cheeks. Because you're the only person who ever told me no. You're the only one who sees me, not the money or the family name. You saw me crying in room 404, and you didn't run away. He stopped dancing. We were in the middle of the floor, but it felt like we were back in the secret room. Imani, he whispered. I don't want you to be my assistant anymore. My heart dropped. You're firing me? No. He shook his head, a small genuine smile touching his lips. I'm promoting you to girlfriend. If you'll have a jerk like me. I looked at him, the boy who had been my enemy, my tormentor, and now my savior. I thought about the strawberry milk and the library, and the way he washed the glue out of my hair with trembling hands. I smiled, wrapping my arms around his neck. I don't know, I teased. You're pretty high maintenance. I might need a raise. He laughed, a real loud, happy sound that shocked the room again. Name your price. Just you, I said. And maybe no more strawberry milk. Deal, he said. And right there, in front of the school board, his father and a terrified Minji, he kissed me. It wasn't a K-drama kiss where you just press lips together and stand still. It was real. It was messy and desperate and full of promises. And when we pulled apart, breathless, I knew that the unwritten rule of room 404 had changed. It wasn't a place to hide anymore. It was where we began. And that is how I, Imani, survived the elite world of Hanlim Royal High. I didn't just survive. I conquered the king. So if you enjoyed watching me go from public enemy number 1 to the girl who got the guy, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories. And let me know in the comments, what's the craziest thing a bully has ever done to you? I'll be reading them all. Thanks for watching.